Hi, today I wanted to go over what, in my opinion, is the best and worst tips to use for bow hunting small game. I'm your host, Rob Gillow, and welcome to Traditional Tips and Trips. There's a variety of different points available out there for the small game hunter, and many that folks make themselves, but they all fall under really a few basic categories. So I'm going to start with my favorite and then work my way down of what I feel works best for hunting small game with traditional archery equipment. First and foremost, the good old-fashioned two-blade broadhead. Just like any big game, you want to make sure these are razor sharp. If you shoot them into the ground, miss your animal, or even get one, you want to make sure that you take the time to resharpen it before it goes back into your quiver. We owe the game that we pursue, whether big game or small, the ultimate amount of respect to make sure that we're shooting the right equipment. Two-blade broadheads don't cause a lot of damage when it comes to the meat of the small game, which is why we're out there hunting them. And it is an ideal tool, with a couple of exceptions. Number one, if you're hunting with dogs. A lot of times if you're upland bird hunting or waterfowl hunting or even rabbit hunting, and the use of dogs that retrieve the game after it's been shot, you need to be very careful when shooting a broadhead. After all, these are still razor sharp after they go through the animal, and you don't want to injure your dog or your hunting partner's dog just because it went to retrieve the animal. So keep that in mind if you're hunting small game with dogs. The broadhead is a great choice, but it might be one that you'd pass in this particular instance. The second, and almost equal to what I like, is a straight steel blunt. There's a lot of folks that use pistol cartridges, you can get the steel blunts and so on and so forth, but a straight steel blunt penetrates your target and it causes an obscene amount of damage to the internal organs, which is again how we're killing these animals. A blunt is very safe, especially when utilizing dogs and such, but again, as you get into bigger game animals such as coons or geese, you have to be careful on these, and sometimes substitute a broadhead in to make sure that you get that clean harvest that you're looking for. A blunt is one of my absolute favorite for small game hunting, and I'll give you some demonstrations why. My third category is the same. It's still of a blunt category, but it's a large rubber style blunt. You can see it's flexible. This is really good at roving or stump shooting in areas that have a lot of rocks. Hard areas that a steel blunt can actually deform or break your arrow, because these give just a little bit. It may deflect the arrow up a little bit, so you won't cause permanent damage to your arrow while you're out practicing. Now this, on the other hand, is not designed to penetrate. This will cause blunt force trauma, basically breaking ribs, bones, and causing damage to internal organs from the impact of the head. So again, this is my third favorite style, but especially if I'm in an area where I'm hunting that has a lot of rocks or very hard ground, this will work great, but it'll also help protect your arrow a little bit. Now getting into my absolute least two favorite forms, and again, there's a lot of different styles. The first that I put above the bottom is actually the Doodle Point. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people out there, including myself, that has killed small game with Doodle Points, but with one small issue, and that exactly is the little barbs and wires that come off that prevent it from getting underneath grasses and brush, kicking it up. These also impede penetration on small game targets, which really means that many times you're only getting that 1/4 inch of penetration. Now, if you're breaking ribs and you cause damage to the lungs, stacking is a good thing and you'll help retrieve your animal. However, I have seen a lot of small game run, especially squirrels, make its way up to the top of trees with a Doodle Point in it, only to die up there and us having to come up with some acrobatics to get him back. I'm sorry, the Doodle Point is an awesome practice tool. It can work for small game, but if I have my choice overall, I will take the straight blunt for hunting and the Doodle Point for practice. And last but not least, the ultimate worst head you could ever use for any type of hunting, but especially for small game hunting or really anything, is the field point. Now, the field point by design is set up to separate whatever it comes in contact with, to move stuff aside smoothly, easily, so it doesn't cause damage to the target, which is the extreme opposite of what we're looking to do when hunting with archery equipment. Because the vital organs in most small game are very flexible because of all the shock that it takes, squirrels jumping from tree to tree, rabbits running, they are very pliable in there, and it's very easy for a field point to go in and just push vital organs, even arteries, aside as it travels through. Unfortunately, you can search any media out there today and you will see photos of ducks, geese, squirrels, and other small game in even city environments walking around parks with an arrow or a bolt through it and a field point on the end. This just puts out a horrific bad taste in the mouth for all anti-hunters and those that aren't even anti-hunters but just don't hunt and they don't understand the aspect of hunting. The field point is designed to cause as little damage as possible and in my opinion should never be used in a hunting situation. Alright, I wanted to take a moment to give a brief demonstration of why I like a blunt when it comes to small game hunting versus a field point. The first shot I'm going to take is actually with a field point. I have my green mat down there just so we can see how these work. Now, this is steel blunt, and this is out of my 1964 Black Widow recurve, and it's only drawing really about 30 pounds at my draw. Let me see. Alright. Well, what we have here is a couple different things. Number one, you can see that the blunt shot completely through the foam mat. And the field point stayed in. And that's because, if I can draw this out, once again, that field point is designed just to push things aside. So as it's pushing through, it's keeping friction on the arrow, leaving it in the target, and it's actually going through and closing up as we're talking, to where the blunt still has just a straight hole through the foam mat. So again, when it comes to small game hunting, this is why I think the field point is the worst choice that someone can make for small game hunting. And outside of a broadhead, the blunt is my personal favorite. Well, thank you again for taking the time for watching today's episode. Please remember, as we go through these are the things that I have found most effective in my over 30 some odd years of traditional bow hunting and traditional muzzle loading. There are certainly other ways to do things, but if you like what it is that we're bringing you, please remember to click on the subscribe button down at the bottom so you don't miss a single episode. As always, keep your broadhead sharp, your powder dry, and we'll see you right here on Traditional Tips and Trips.